Hi, my name is Ray and welcome back to another episode of Ray's Economics Cluebook. Today we'll be beginning our part 2 of our video on money by talking about the measurements of money. Part 1 we talk about definition, and part 2 we apply the definition to its measurements of money. And so basically the measurements of money are dictated by the Federal Reserve and not directly from the federal government. And so basically they start from M0 and go up to M1, M2, M3. And basically as they go up through the numbers M0 to M3, they get more broad in their definition of money. So M0 is the strictest definition. It's only currency directly in circulation, meaning privately held by a household or privately spent throughout the economy in transactions. And this means that it does not include money held within the Fed systems or within bank vaults, because this is not directly in private circulation. And so from that we can derive a separate type of monetary measurement or definition, perhaps, meaning the monetary base. Because if we include currency circulation plus our bank's holdings or vaults, we basically include all the direct cash or money in the economy that's either spent or held in banks. And so this is our monetary base, because it's M0 plus bank vaults plus reserves and Fed systems. And so another way we can derive off of the M0 is through M1. M1 includes M0, means currency in circulation, combined with traveler's checks, checking deposits, or demand deposits. Basically, it includes direct currency, directly in circulating currency, with very almost completely liquid accounts that are basically near cash, which are checking accounts. And so that is M1. A less liquid version would then go on to be M2. M2 would include everything from N1 except CD accounts, savings accounts, money market deposit, things like that. Things that are still quite liquid, but they are less liquid, relatively speaking, to checking deposits. So M2 is less liquid than M1. And then M3 is the least liquid definition. M3 includes other larger deposits, institutional money market funds, and just all larger, less liquid, but still relatively liquid assets in general. And so these assets might not seem directly like money, but they are liquid enough to be included in M3, but not liquid enough to be included in M2, M1, or of course M0. So we see here from M0 to M3, we see the definition become less and less liquid in terms of money. So when it comes to money supply, of course we just mentioned it's dictated by the Federal Reserve. This means that deficit spending or government policy does not change monetary supply, because the government does not even directly determine what money supply even is defined as, and so they cannot really measure it. And deficit spending, of course, it just becomes recycled money. It doesn't really change monetary supply. And so from M1 and M2 we can see how we see the significance of less liquid accounts being included in monetary definition. Because in M1, transactional accounts, or these checking accounts perhaps, make up half of entire M1, which is a very large increase than from M0. M1 is important to know that credit card transactions are not part of M1, or in this case, because credit card transactions are not near liquid accounts. They are not checking accounts, they're not money. You might treat them like money, but really in reality they're just small bank loans to consumers. So these loans are really just recycled money that is not directly added on to M1. And then M2, we see how savings accounts then make up an even larger portion of a more illiquid definition of money, because savings accounts make up 2/3 of M2. So it just goes to show how we include more accounts in, they make up a significant part of our money supply and a significant part of our economy overall. So we look at some real life examples of monetary supply. Basically we can see here the blue line here is M1, the pink line here is M2. We can just see how big the difference is between M2 and M1. It's quite massive. It just goes to show how things like savings accounts, how big of a role they play in the economy. It also shows how savings accounts have grown significantly from 1981 to 2016. And while M1 has grown consistently, it has not grown quite nearly the same massive rate or a rapid rate as M2 has grown. Once again showing the more significance of less liquid accounts, the definition in our monetary supply. So for our final clues, part one video, we talked about money has 3 basic features that makes up its definition. It's a medium of exchange, convenient account, and store of value. And so this brings into questions of what exactly is money. We see here it's cryptocurrency money. That's a big debate right now, because with the expansion of internet of course is a significant part of our economy. So it goes to show in the future we need to see the money definition needs to be revised, or perhaps interpreted differently perhaps. Well, that's a question for the future. And so second part of the video, we need to summarize that there's a large difference between M0, MB, M1, M2, and other things. And these are very important because they all make up a significant portion of our economy, as just showed through our last graph. And just to go along with that, revolved cash and reserves are not in M1, but they're in monetary base. M1 is, and all these M1s are all just currency in circulation and illiquid currency in circulation, perhaps. And then this is all determined not by the federal government policies, but by the Federal Reserve, which is technically quasi-private institution. So thank you, and see you next time. Bye-bye.